Evening everyone. Our meeting for tonight starting at 6 p.m. I welcome those in the gallery and our council members and staff to this meeting, and I wish to advise that it is council policy to record the proceedings of meetings of council on digital media to assist in the preparation of minutes and to ensure that a true and accurate account of debate and discussion of meetings is available. This audio recording is authorised by the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2015. I would also like to acknowledge country, the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Tomagina people, and to pay our respect to those that have passed before us, their history and their culture. Record of attendance, leave of absence, Mayor Robbie Walsh. Confirmation of the previous minutes. There is a recommendation there. Could I have a mover?
So moved.
Councillor Courtney. Are there any corrections to the minutes? They need to be identified and agreed at this point prior to taking the vote. Are there any corrections or amendments, please? If there are no corrections or amendments, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, councillors and staff? None this evening. Councillors' announcements and report. The announcements by the Mayor. There is a recommendation there that the council note the acting mayor's communications. Could I have a mover, please?
I move that recommendation.
And so moved, Councillor Edwards, seconded Councillor Fairbrother. Are there any queries regarding the diary for this past month? I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. Reports by delegates. There have been none received. Notification of council workshops. We have a recommendation regarding the councillor workshops. Could I have a mover for that motion, please?
So moved.
Councillor Bradley?
Yep.
Thank you. Moved Councillor Bradley, seconded Councillor Bramich. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. We move on to public questions and statements. The Council encourages community participation in its meetings through the opportunity for public questions and statements. Consistent with Council's core values, councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with courtesy, fairness, dignity and respect. We expect our residents and ratepayers to apply similar standards in their dealings with Council. As Acting Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of Council meetings and to determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to the use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I ask members of the public to show proper consideration and courtesy in their comments. Responses to public questions taken on notice from the previous meeting. Question from Mrs. Cameron with a response, Mr. Marmion regarding the responsible dog owner ban, and Mr. Hutchison's settlement strategy, and there are the officer's response are recorded in the agenda. We now move to the public questions received in writing. We have received none of those, but public questions without notice and public statements without notice. Mr. Hutchison, you have a statement you wish to make this evening?
Good evening all. Did have a couple of quick questions. Just one was about the Aldina Reserve, whether there's a master plan or anything scheduled for that. What's the progress in terms of the stakeholders involved there.
Through Aldina Reserve, sorry, was that?
Yeah, the Aldina picnic area
Yeah.
and
Yep.
associated.
Yeah, through your acting mayor, essentially council have, I guess, been in discussions for a little while with Sustainable Timbers to develop an MOU around, I guess, with two components. One, the first stage being the maintenance and cleaning, if you like, removal of car bodies of the site to make it presentable. The second part of that MOU is around development of a master plan, and essentially those discussions are ongoing, and nothing to report back at this point in time.
And the other question relates to the statement. It's just about the Fossil Bluff master plan. I remember that in some documentation a while ago, but I don't know exactly where it is. There was a trail between Boat Harbour Beach and Fossil Bluff via the coast. Access through Table Cape, around the base of Table Cape. If possible, could you ask one of your staff members if there's that document anywhere, or because just can't find it, can't remember where it is.
Thanks, Mr. Hutchison. We'll take that on notice.
Yep. And my statement was in regards to the feedback on the Fossil Bluff master plan that I've sent to all the councillors. So just for your records, so there's a couple of ideas I had. A trail around the reserve land along the Inglis River and the beach around the golf course. And there's an image or a diagram showing that. A staged plan to develop a trail between Boat Harbour Beach and Fossil Bluff, essentially, but stage 1 Table Cape to Fossil Bluff. A big slide from the car park at the Fossil Bluff conservation area just down to the beach there, and just some comments regarding the Bush Foods trail and gardens. There already is quite a number of pig face plants along that coastal area, so in any works associated with revegetation of the area, I'd ask that you don't get rid of those pig face plants, because that's already a bush food that exists there. And there's no point in getting rid of those to plant the same thing somewhere else, if that makes sense. And yeah, they're edible fruits from January to March, so yeah, please don't.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. We have your comments that we will have for consideration. Mr. Kingston, you have a statement as well. Thank you.
I'm glad the previous gentleman came before me, because I wouldn't have known to press that. I mean, we have been told that, this is a process and all that. Yeah, absolutely, and we recognise that. But we do want our voice heard from the start, and we'll follow this through. So, because we do have a lot of skin in the game, so to speak, we plan to put in. This isn't part. This is just embellishment. We plan to put in a submission, obviously. But yeah, okay. I'll just read out the actual statement. In the draft master plan, the amenities and toilet block proposed for Fossil Bluff is to be located only a few metres from a doorway to our home. We have not been able to find a public toilet anywhere that is so close to a private home. And we're talking about Australia. Well, I mean, there might be, but I haven't been able to find one. Public toilets are a well-known attraction and hangout for drug users, drug dealers, and they are a location for inappropriate sexual activity. We already witnessed drug deals taking place in the car park. Also deliveries, which I haven't got here, via drones. We've only seen that twice in 4 years, but it happens. This action would send an important precedent and would send a terrible message to the residents and wider community of Waratah and Wynyard, namely that public toilets can and will be built right next to residents' homes, regardless of privacy concerns, safety concerns, and the health impact on residents. Also, this will undoubtedly lead to a requirement for an increased police presence, or as a minimum, lead to more calls and complaints to the police. Police resources in this area are no doubt already stretched, so anything that would knowingly increase this burden should be avoided. The proposed location is also directly in front of the access ramp to the foreshore. Clearly, this would render the access ramp useless. The ramp is used by maintenance crews and, more importantly, emergency vehicles when required. On page 21 of the plan, it is stated, in relation to the proposed developments at the top of Inglis Drive, that due consideration will be given in order to minimise impact to residents on the street. It appears that the same consideration will not be given to the residents of Freestone Crescent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kingston. Mrs. Kingston, you have a question for us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kathleen Kingston, and my question is, in the draft master plan, a more suitable alternative location for the public amenities toilet block would be the park on the foreshore of the Inglis River near the bridge on Saunders Street. This position is away from residents. It is easily seen from the road. It is already an established amenities area with barbecue and picnic tables. It is used by day trippers of all kinds, including picnickers, boaters, fishermen, kayakers and the disabled. It is a start-end node of 3 walking tracks: the Inglis River track, the Guthrie's Garden track and the Golf Links Road walking track. Was this area considered as a possible alternative location, and if so, why was it discounted? My second question is, could you please provide details regarding what further avenues, legal and otherwise, may be available to affected parties who may not support the final plan endorsed by Council?
Thank you very much for that. I'll refer to Mr. Summers to provide some answers for you.
Thanks. Through you, Acting Mayor. That alternate location, along with the Fossil Bluff as a location, has also been put to council in the past as a potential for public toilet. The draft plan that exists doesn't discount that, and I guess I'd reiterate, in the current feedback process, council is certainly willing and open to hearing your feedback around concerns of impacts of that location. To sum up, that is another alternate location that could be considered. The existing location in the draft plan is far from set in stone. And for the second question, I guess the current feedback process is one of those avenues to put in alternate views or oppose. If items in a master plan did become accepted and you're opposed for some infrastructure items, there would be a development application process which will give opportunity for representation, but I'd again reiterate that now is probably the best time to give that feedback so that council have all views, perspectives to consider what it might or might not have in its final plan it adopts. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Kingston. So that ends our section with our public questions and statements. It is now 6:15 and we now move into a planning authority. We have no public questions or statements relating to our planning matter tonight, so 6.3 is the road realignment located at 15583 15555 and 15663 Bass Highway, Doctors Rocks, DA 93-2021. There's a recommendation there with 3 conditions. Could I have a mover for that particular motion, please?
So moved. Acting Mayor.
Councillor Bramage, could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hyland. Councillor Bramage, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Just briefly, I guess this is just a development application. I'm not an engineer. I'm not to say whether it's right or wrong, and I guess we're just going to put our trust, and I say the word trust lightly, loosely, however I want to say it, put our faith in these guys. That's the best route to take. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. Are there any more speakers? Any speakers against the motion, please? Councillor Fairbrother.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I will speak against it, but I will vote in favour of it because I recognise trying to turn over the recommendation is perhaps a fruitless exercise. I do question as well the value in the money being spent. I guess I had trouble reading through the agenda when our approach at council and perhaps the state government more so is the protection of agricultural land, and in this application it seems as though there's a large tract of agricultural lands that's going to be become worthless to the pursuit of agriculture, and if we was to approve such a large area for residential development, the applicant would have significant challenges to get it approved. However, because of the utility zoning for road purposes, I guess the application will be passed. However, it does, reading through, and maybe I'm just being a little bit pedantic, but when we've got other competing interests for state government dollars in terms of Cam River Bridge, the existing road adjacent to this area that's going to be upgraded is in my words and assessment, pretty poor condition, to put it politely. Councillor Bramage has been on about the roughness of Mount Hicks Road, Mount Hicks Roundabout, the Bass Highway either side. You've got to really say, hey, we've got existing assets that need upgrading and maintaining. Why are the state government spending money replacing or building a new road? And you've got to really ask yourself when we assess this, is that the best spend of the money? Does it really meet the community needs? Perhaps they're not planning considerations for the planning authority. However, they are real and ever-present considerations, because at the end of the day, it's taxpayers' money, regardless of where it comes from. And perhaps that's not what we're here for tonight. We're here to consider a planning application. But whilst you do it, there's these side issues which are relevant to the application that underpin what we're considering. And I just can't sit here and just say, yep, we'll approve it, because there are some significant concerns out there, justified concerns from our ratepayers about, is this the best spend for our taxpayers' dollars in this particular instance? And I have some reservations that it is. So I guess that's why I'm talking against the motion, but will be supporting it, because I'm not convinced that it is a good spend of our funds. However, I don't believe that can impact my decision on whether I do or whether I don't support the application. But I raise these concerns because I believe that they are ever present in in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fairbrother. Councillor Fairbrother spoke against the motion. Is there anyone who wishes to speak for the motion? Councillor Highland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll speak in favour of the motion. And this is one I believe is of many projects that's going to happen over the next few years between Somerset and Circular Head, and it's been on the books for, I wouldn't like to think how many years, and I just recall one lot of feasibility money that came through when Brett Whiteley was one of the representatives, so it goes back a fair while, and they've already mapped out a few other projects. There's one at Boat Harbour where the church is in the dip. That one I think's already marked out as well, so it's going to be ongoing. And as far as the money goes, we've already got the 40 million from the federal government for the Somerset Bridge, so that one's locked in, and we've got another, and I don't know that there's any other money been locked in further down Circular Headway. There may have been. And we've got a federal election coming up early next year, so I reckon they'll be chasing more money for it, and it'll be a good employer, and it'll just be ongoing, and it'll be in our end of the island, which is a plus for us, I think. So I'm certainly in favour of it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Highland. Are there any more speakers against the motion? Mr. GM.
Through you, Acting Mayor, just to clarify around the funding, not so much a planning matter, but just to clarify that point, there's 100 million allocated for highway improvements between Marrawar and Wynyard, and then 40 million essentially from through Cooey area. So this particular works will be funded out of the 40 million. So already done. So the Cam River Bridge and this constitutes the bulk of the 40 million that was promised in that regard.
Thank you for that. Councillor Bramage, would you like to wind up?
Just very briefly. Look, thanks, councillors. I believe we're all going to support it, and I guess from where I sit, who am I to say whether it's a right design or wrong design? But by word, I certainly will. When it's built, if it's the wrong design, I will say something then. But at this stage, it's only a planning application, and I think we're obligated to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Bramage. If there are no more speakers, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried unanimously. That closes our planning authority at 6:23. We move on to matters raised by councillors. Responses to councillors' question taken on notice from the previous meeting. Councillor Fairbrother, the Inglis River retaining wall, and there is a response there for you. I now ask, are there any councillor questions without notice? Councillor Courtney.
I'm just wondering if we could talk to the state government about that road that is out the back of Doctors Rocks there, where we quite often have a lot of potholes that are being resealed and resealed and resealed. I've been in Hobart for the last week, and I've noticed that a lot of the roads to tourist attractions down there, to look at our road, we look like a little country town. There's roads going out to Port Arthur, out to Terhune. They're obviously tourist roads, which is the same as Bass Highway down to the Tarkine. Our road seems to be massively under-financed, or just it's not getting fixed. And I look at what's going on down south, and I was so angry on some of the roads that I was driving, thinking that's what we've got up there. And I know that Daniel's been trying to get our heavy vehicle tax up here so we can fix our roads, but I'm so angry in what I've seen in the last week in what's being done down there, and then how our roads are being treated up here. So I'd like to find out, or if we could write and just say to the state government, when are we going to fix that part of the road properly so it's not a patch job all the time?
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. We'll take that one on notice. Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Councillor Edwards.
Just a question, but I'll take this on notice. This last week I've noticed that there's been a couple of dog attacks where dogs have been attacked by roaming dogs or dog. I just wondered if we have a report on that and what was the conclusion for that for the owner, if the owner was found. Because, I think there's a little bit of fear out in the community at the moment because of this.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards, for raising that. Mr GM.
Yeah, well, we'll take that on notice and follow that up. I'm not aware of any reports, but mind you, I haven't asked the question either, so we'll find out.
Thank you. Are there any more questions without Councillor Hyland? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I've got a couple. Some time ago when we were installing the cameras, I did pose a question whether there was a possibility that we could have a mobile camera and put it up where probably it was needed. They've had another bash out at the roundabout out here. And also at Somerset, in behind the tennis courts, they've made a hell of a mess in there. Just ripped it up to shreds. And surely, I don't know, is it a possibility that we can have one sort of installed for 7 days, fortnight, or in different locations? Just like that's just going to go on and on out that roundabout. Is that a possibility, Mr GM?
Through Academy, look, mobile cameras are absolutely a possibility. The cost and the ease of setup, I guess, depends on location, connectivity, all those sorts of things. So perhaps what we need to do, Councillor Hyland, is get some information for you and bring it back as to what options might be out there. But they are readily available, mobile cameras.
It'll be about the only way I think we'll catch them. Right.
Thank you. You have a second question, Councillor Hyland?
Thank you. Well, I think this has been talked about in our circles and Waratah, but just to probably get it on the books was something, they're going to do something in relation to Sue Walsh for her contribution to Waratah, given that she's in the resignation mode. She'll be sort of stepping down. I just wondered if something will be done at some stage.
I think, Mrs. Bradley, would you?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Not that I'm aware of, however, I can take that on notice and make some more inquiries about that one. Yeah.
Just a some of us have received a message or an email or a message that goes through the thing in regard to what happened at the meeting of the museum. So she's sort of calmly wrote a pretty good response to that, and I thought the writers on the wall.
Yeah.
The son's trying to relocate
Thanks, Councillor Hyland. Councillor Fairbrother, you have a question?
No, only a suggestion. Perhaps Councillor Hyland's question could be written in the affirmative, in that can Council take action to recognise Councillor Walsh's or former Councillor Walsh's contribution to the municipality. That way, if nothing's been done, something can be done. Thank you.
Thank you for your suggestion, Councillor Fairbrother. Are there any more questions without notice? Councillor Bradley.
I was just wondering, I have put this complaint to State Roads before about the road situation just down past Gates's Road on the highway at Flowerdale there, and there's a pooling of water there. And last time I put the complaint in, they just put a sign up and said, just be careful. This time we were thrown around in our car because of the water on the road. The wider the tyres, the harder it hits this water puddle, and you aquaplane. I rang them again, told them. I went back the next day, and there's a sign that says traffic hazard. You can't see this puddle until you're actually on it, because it's coming down Flowerdale Hill and it's coming down from Boat Harbour Way past Gates Road, and it's just a big pool there. Now, it's only probably a matter of somebody, which we discussed before, about digging a hole to let the water run away. But State Road just sends somebody in to put a sign there. Well, it's not fixing the problem, it's dangerous. So I'm just wondering whether we could, as a council, write to State Road and tell them that it is really dangerous and there will be an accident there. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Fairbrother. Thank you, Councillor Bradley. Mr. Summers, did you wish to make any response?
Through you, Acting Mayor, it's probably one to add to the letter we talked about earlier to go to State Growth around road matters.
Thank you. Councillor Bramich, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you. I guess it's probably more of a comment than a question. I guess later in the meeting somewhere, I raised an issue last council meeting regarding, I jumped on my bandwagon, was demanding a meeting with State Growth or Parks or someone like that, and Councillor Fairbrother said perhaps there's another approach. Well, I guess management was going to work out the best way to approach that with whoever. I guess this could all tie in with the roads and parks and everything if we play our cards right. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich. If there are no more questions, we shall move on to item 8, which is notice of motion, and none have been received. 9, reports of officers and committees, communication and engagement strategy, annual review. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Courtney, could I have
Second
a seconder?
that.
Councillor Edwards. Councillor Courtney, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, I just not going to speak to it. I'm just going to say, okay, you're obviously doing a good job on this. This is obviously working. This is new for council, and you know, when I went through the agenda, I noticed that it says that there's been an increase in traffic to the website. There's been an increase in users coming onto the website. There's been an increase in people viewing our meetings online. I know that even where I work, people will tell me that they are going to other people's places to watch the council meeting together. I personally wouldn't be how I feel my time, but it's good that we are getting that kind of interaction, that people are sort of going, there's an item on tonight that I'd like to see what happens, and they're gathering together to watch the meeting. I think that means our communication strategy is actually doing a lot of good, because people are actually engaging and talking to each other about engaging. So this is a really, really good thing that we've done, and I'd just like to commend on obviously the fact that the way that you've rolled it out is actually achieving what it's meant to achieve, and that's more interaction and more involvement with the community. So keep it up.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. We aim to please, and if we can organise parties, we will. Are there any other speakers to this motion? Anyone? Councillor Hyland.
Certainly reiterate what Councillor Courtney has said, and the fact that reading those couple of charts there sort of impressed me fairly well. Even from, there's a big jump from 2010, but 2019 to 2021 has got us right up there, and you've certainly, I think, set yourself a fairly high benchmark now that you've got to keep up to. No, staff should be commended on that work, and it is what we're finding out there in the community. Everybody's talking about us and what we're doing, and you know, it's really good. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. It is very positive, and we should be very proud of the way that we have handled the communication. The staff as well as the councillors, I think that we are doing a very good job. Are there any more speakers to this motion or against the motion? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. 9.2 is the annual plan report. 1st of July 2020 to 30th of June 2021. There is an attachment at the back of our agenda, and I'm sure you've all read it. Could I have a mover, please, for this particular motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Moved.
I'll second it.
Seconded, Councillor Hyland. Councillor Courtney, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, I don't need to speak to the motion. I think that, it says that we're obviously getting a lot done and there's not a lot incomplete and that the overall projections are pretty good. So, yep, I don't need to say more than that.
Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Councillor Hyland, are you wishing to say anything there? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against this particular motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. 9.3, the quarterly statistics to 30th of June 2021. There is a recommendation that we note the quarterly statistics. Could I have a mover? Councillor
I'll
Edwards?
move that recommendation.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Councillor Edwards, would you like to speak to this particular motion?
I'm happy to move with it as it is. I just had a question. The vaccinations, what type of vaccinations are they? Are they just like children's vaccinations?
What page are you?
42? Yeah, I don't know.
Environmental and Public Health on page 42.
Environmental and Public Health. In there.
Mr. Summers, would you like to respond, please?
Yeah, through you, Acting Mayor. I believe that's the case, but I'll take it on notice to make sure.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Are there any further comments from the floor, please, regarding the quarterly statistics? And as we're noting this motion, anyone speaking against? Therefore, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. 9.4, award of contract, number 764, Camp Creek Final Rehabilitation. The recommendation is that Council award the contract, Camp Creek Final Rehabilitation, to Gradco Proprietary Limited. Could I have a mover, please?
I'll move that.
Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, second that.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich. Councillor Edwards, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I'm very happy to go with the recommendation. I've been waiting for a long time for this to come to fruition, and I'm sure everybody else has in the community, so cannot wait for this to be completed.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against this motion? Any more speakers for the motion? Councillor Bramich?
Just the quicker the better. That's all.
Beg your pardon, sorry.
The quicker the better.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich. Councillor Hyland.
Just one question. In regard to the doing all the garden works, the top dressing and all that sort of thing, I thought we were reasonably flushed with garden staff, or is it just not a job you can sort of split with a contractor doing the drain and then, yeah, that's all?
Yep.
Mr. Summers, would you like to respond, please?
Through Acting Mayor, it's been packaged as one set of works for the contractor. The major component's actually the soil conditioning, which they'll need to employ agronomist skills and equipment to do so. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Summers and Councillor Hyland. Are there any more speakers for this motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. 9.5, award of contract, provision of roadside weed spraying services. Could I have a mover for that particular motion, please? Councillor Hyland. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Councillor Edwards. Councillor Hyland, do you wish to speak to this motion, please?
Oh, not really. I think we've actually touched on it a little bit. when we were doing budget and whatever else in regard to the spraying, so pretty happy with what I can see.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers to the motion or against the motion? Councillor Bramich, what are you speaking for or against?
I'm going to speak against, but I probably will support it. But I will speak against if that makes sense. Probably don't, but we'll see how we go. I'm not picking on any contractors, but I've got a concern how we spray our weeds. Seems like we can spray them in the drizzly rain. It seems like we can spray them in an hour after it rains. I've tried that at home and I can't get it to work. And I can tell you there's a lot of roads in our municipality that get sprayed and the weeds are still, and the grass is growing on each of the bit of them and it's still green. That is my concern. And I sort of don't want to be critical of the contractor, but I guess this has got to be put out there so people know, or we know. A classic example is Leonard Drive. That gets sprayed, but it never dies. And it's either done with a heavy dew on it of a morning, or it rains not long after. I don't say that happens all the time, but I guess that's my only concern. But I will support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich. You didn't actually speak against the motion. You raised an issue around that, so thank you. Are there any more speakers for the motion? Against the motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. 9.6, the financial report for the period ended 30th of June 2021. Could I have a mover for this motion to note the interim financial reports?
So moved.
Councillor Hyland, could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Councillor Edwards. Councillor Hyland, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thanks. Pretty happy with the situation.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Courtney?
I'd like to agree that we are going pretty well, but I'd also like to note that there's dividends from Water Corp that don't look like they should be because they're sitting on it. Probably a good time to note that.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Courtney. Any further speakers to or against the motion? I shall put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. Senior Management Report. Could I have a mover for the Senior Management Report? Councillor Hyland, have you got your light on for any?
Sorry.
So moved then.
Councillor Courtney, thank you. Could I have a seconder, please? Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that.
Councillor Edwards. Are there any speakers for the motion? There are two parts that we note the monthly Senior Management Report and note councillor attendance at the 2021 Legat Conference. Councillor Hyland.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a comment on the business visit round to the timber place round the back of the airport, which nobody knew was there and whatever else, but certainly going to create a little bit of interest, I think, and the quicker the word gets around and the quicker they can get their house studs together, we might pull a few people out of get their houses built, in other words. It was really good. Looking forward to the next one.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland, for those positive comments. It will be good to see if we can organise further industry visits for councillors. It's very good for us to get out into the community and see what is happening. Are there any other speakers to the motion? Councillor Bramich.
I'm going to make a comment on Archers Road. Is that appropriate?
Go ahead, Councillor Bramich.
Thank you. I just can't get my head around this. So obviously it's unofficial name on the road, according to the powers to be in Hobart. Well, I guess, as far as I know, it's been Archers Road for 100 years. And I'm just a little bit surprised that these guys down in Hobart can say, no, you can't have Archers Road anymore. I know there's no houses down there. There's one on the corner. But I would have thought they've got more to do than worry about Archers Road. All right, you could say there's Archers Roads all over our state. There probably is too. But why should they just pick on this road and say, you know, that's what I'm frustrated about. There's no more Archers Road in the municipality. There's probably Archers Road all over the state. That's fine. But I just can't understand why we've got to change the signpost and try and explain to the community why we've changed it. And then people ask for directions. Oh, it's 3 kilometres past Archers Road. What are you going to say? 3 kilometres past Ramsgills Road. Where's Ramsgills Road? Come on. Look, I believe we should write to them and express our concerns. I know we probably can't, but I'm pretty frustrated about something like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bramich. Mr. GM, would you like to make any comment about... not so much about the fact that Councillor Bramich is unhappy, but writing to them again.
Yeah, through you, Acting Mayor, and I'm not sure, to be honest, the comment there in the report that says due to numerous existing official duplications, the name was rejected. I guess I probably need to find out how much interrogation went on at that point in time, and get that more information that we can bring back to clarify. But yeah.
Thank you, Mr. GM. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Yes, Councillor Fairbrother, you wish to speak?
What give you that idea?
Beg your pardon?
Yes, I do.
Well,
Thank you.
go right ahead.
Perhaps further to Councillor Bramich's question, I guess I was wondering what jurisdiction do we have under the nomenclature board provisions, or whatever it is, that give us as council road naming authority. I just come back to the Foster's Road debate again. I think we do as a council have some jurisdiction in that area perhaps, but equally I'm not sufficiently across it. Perhaps whilst the General Manager is looking into it, he could avail himself of that legislation, and when he comes back to us can fully explain our role when it comes to naming such roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fairbrother. Are there any more speakers to this motion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. 9.8, minutes of other bodies, committees. The minutes of the Waratah Community Board held on the 26th. They're the unconfirmed minutes. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Hyland.
Second that.
Councillor Edwards. Councillor Hyland, do you have any comments you wish to make as you attended the meeting, I understand? Thank you.
Thanks to the General Manager for attending and giving a bit of an update on what's going on.
Thank you, Councillor Hyland. Are there any further comments regarding the unconfirmed minutes of the Waratah Community Board? If not, I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried unanimously. Moving on to matters proposed for consideration in the closed meeting, we have a recommendation that the Council resolves by an absolute majority that the matters listed below be considered in the closed meeting. Could I have a mover, please?
Move that recommendation.
Councillor Edwards. Could I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Hyland. No discussion about this. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried.